Yeah, live on both platforms. Yeah, that's what it is.
All right, Shalom Israel.
Shalom.
We are the I.S.U.P.K out of 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under commanding General Yohanna. All right, we teach the so-called blacks, so-called Hispanics, so-called Native Indians, that they are from the 12 lost tribes of the nation of Israel. And today is a very special day that most of the known world or Christian church or Christendom, or however you want to call it, don't know or don't understand what today is. Today is the feast of Purim, right, which is on the 14th and the 15th day, all right, of the month of Abib, right? So we'll get that clear. But today is that day when we celebrate the destruction of our enemies, and not just any of our enemies, but it is a special aspect of what these heathens, how crafty they are. They take crafty counsel against thy people. In this story, which is in Purim, which starts in the book of Esther. As you know, Esther is a famous sister known in the Bible. All right, she is one that was in a position to help her nation. And when the time was right, when the time was needed, she was in that place where she could have put herself in a position, in a vulnerable position, to save her nation. And what she exhibited was brotherhood, which is also synonymous to sisterhood. And that is something that is built, that is something that is taught, that is something that is integrated in the I.S.U.P.K under commanding General Yohanna. Right? This is one of our feast days, and it's for 2 days. Right? It's from today, which is the 14th and the 15th day of the 12th month. Right? That is according to our calendar, not the Roman calendar. But today is the 25th of February, and also tomorrow the 26th of February. Right? So as we go through the scripture, as we go through the book of Esther, we will see the story of what made this sister a great sister. What made this sister have her own book, you understand, named after her in these scriptures. Because there are very few sisters, you understand, who are named or who are given books in this Bible. Right? So as we go through, we'll be able to get an understanding of how a woman is supposed to be. We will see how masculinity is to be performed and how femininity is supposed to be performed. Not like how the world try to push it now, where they make men effeminate and they make women masculine, where they teach women to be bitches and hoes. That is not in the scriptures. And we're going to have a righteous sister who, when called upon to come in that place and forget herself, relieve her selfish ways, to what? To give her life towards saving her, right? So again, you need to log on to all our social media pages, like, share, and subscribe on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and all the other social media handles, ISUPK.com, and we have I.S.U.P.K Trinidad and Tobago. So tonight, as I said before, we're going to go into the book of Esther, where we get to understand what or how really the Feast of Purim came about, right? And as we go through the book of Esther, we'll be able to get an understanding, and we'll see the weaknesses of the heathens, who are always our enemies. Even when we are in captivity, they have no regard, no remorse. They always want us to be what? Under their feet. And it's no different to now. where we see blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians, where we are what? We're always downtrodden. We are always, second-class citizens, second-rated, bottom of the barrel. But the Most High is going to raise us out of this. And that could only happen through the I.S.U.P.K under Commandant General Yahanna. This is why every day we teach classes to raise our people up from the ghettos and from the slums and from all the devices of the white man. People would always say, okay, well, always talking about the white man, always talking about the white man, but there's no one else to talk about. Because why? Through their rulership, that is where the real oppression comes from. Because why? They are what? The most subtle beasts. There are plenty of other beasts, which are the other nations, but this so-called white man is the most subtle out of all of them. So this is why we have classes right through to be able to raise our people. We have the Monday night class, right? Actually from the Sunday, especially for the local branch of Trinidad and Tobago, we have the Sunday class with Officer Galawan, which is scripture breakdown. On Mondays, we have the history class with Officer Makakobal. On Tuesday, we have the brotherhood class with Officer GEN.YAHANNA. On Wednesday, we have the law class with Officer Mafkoya. On Thursdays, we usually have the scripture breakdown from headquarters with General Mahaiman. Right? As tonight, we have the Feast of Purim, so we are celebrating the Feast of Purim. We also get the live stream from headquarters with the breakdown of the Feast of Purim also. On Thursdays, we also have what we call the last show one for Dash, or the Holy Tongue, done by myself, Officer Yakad, and at times by other brothers as well. Then we have Saturday, which is our Sabbath service, right? That is where we keep the Lord's Sabbath on Saturday, right? All these classes are done at 7 p.m. except for the Sabbath service, which is done at 10 a.m. on Saturday morning. Starts at 10 a.m. And besides those regular classes, we have scripture breakdown as well on Monday nights with General Mahaiman from headquarters, as well as we have the Black Watch with Commandant General Yahanna, who teaches and shows all the current events and everything that's coming against the nation of Israel. Everything that is happening in the nation of Israel is basically Black CNN for blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians. But tonight, again, we're going to continue to show the greatness, you understand, the great act that this sister called Esther did, who was an Israelite from the tribe of Benjamin. Right? She was a Benjamite, who are the so-called West Indians today. Right? So tonight we're going to start from the book of Esther, chapter 1 and verse 1, and really get a good breakdown and understanding of why, just as how we celebrate, the death of our enemies, of the Egyptians for Passover, this is also a celebration, of the great act that this sister did and saved the lives of the children of Israel at that time, whilst they were under captivity, under heathens at that time, which would be the Persians and Medes at that time. We start at the book of Esther, chapter 1 and verse 1. So here we're going to get the genesis of, how this story started to play off, and get to understand, what made this sister, get this honor of having a book or story named after her in these scriptures. So starting from Esther 1. Yeah. So what about the show?
The book of Esther, chapter 1 and verse 1. Now it came to pass in the days of Ahasuerus. This is Ahasuerus, which reigned from India even to Ethiopia, over 120 provinces.
All right, so this was a great king at the time of the Persians and the Medes. All right, and he ruled 127 provinces. He basically ruled the known world at that time, right? Barring some other small areas in deep Africa and other areas. But at that time, he basically ruled the entire known world at that time. So this was Ahasuerus, or Xerxes, as he would also be known. But he was a very powerful king at that time. Like when the Persians and Mede Empire was at basically at the height of the empire. Continue.
Verse 2. That in those days when the king Assyria sat on the throne of his kingdom, which was in Shushan, the palace, in the 3rd year of his reign, he made a feast unto all his princes and his servants, the power of Persia and Media, the nobles and princes of the provinces being before him.
So you see anywhere here now, you know, he really keeping a big bash, as we would say down here. You understand? Because he's showing all his power and all his glory. Because to have under your control 127 provinces, that is a lot of power and a lot of wealth from all these different areas, right? So he decided to keep, you know, this feast, this big banquet, right? And this place where we call Shushan, right? This is where the main capital of where this king was, right? And where that is now, that is like this is in modern day Iran, right? And around a place called Kazakhstan province, right? So that area was the main palace or the citadel was, right? Was a place called Shushan, which is in now the modern day Iran or Iranian city called Shush, right? In the province of Kazan. I think it's Kazan, because it's Kazakhstan. Everything is a stan in Iran, right? But this was the area basically where this biblical city was of the Persian and the Mede Empire that this great king was. Continue, Bankasha.
Verse 4. When he showed the riches of his glorious kingdom and the honor of his excellent majesty many days, even 180 days. And when the days were expired, the king made a feast unto all that were present in Shushan, the palace, both unto great and small, 7 days in the court of the garden of the king's palace.
So you see this man keep a big feast for 140 days. And as you said? No, 100, yeah, 40 and 4 days. So that's like 180? 24, yeah. So 180 days, he keep this was for the big boys and them. You would have put it like that. Right? This was for the big boys, because he said he showed his riches and kingdom and his excellence. Right? So he keep this big feast for the big boys, for the nobles and the prince in all those areas. And then after that, now he say here, well, in this city, in this area of Shushan, I'm going to keep a 7-day big feast. For everybody, every dog and cat, as we say. Everybody come out, or let's jump out, eat, drink, and be merry. Continue, Babu Kusha.
Verse 6. Where were white, green, and blue hangings, fastened with cords of fine linen, and purple to silver rings and pillars of marble. The beds were of gold and silver, upon a pavement of red and blue and white and black marble. And they gave them drink in vessels of gold, the vessels being diverse one from another, and royal wine in abundance, according to the state of the king.
So the man bring out everything. He bring out the best. He say, yo, fix up the place nice, drape up, fix up, bring out the most expensive cloths, draperies, everything. Because those colors, like blue and purple and everything, those were very royal colors at that time. So we bring out all them stuff, dress up the place, and keeping a big bashment for everybody. Right, Babu Kusha?
And the drinking was according to the law. None did compel. For so the king had appointed to all the officers of his house that they should do according to every man's pleasure. Verse 9. Also Vashti, the queen, made a feast for the women in the royal house, which belonged to the king Ahasuerus.
Right, so Vashti was the king's wife, or the queen. Now, this king was an Elamite king. You understand? Because remember, he ruled from India to Ethiopia. So he was that king at the time. So this king, this Elamite king, was ruling at that time. And you can see the name of his queen at that time is Vashti. And we know Vashti is a very common Elamite name. And the Elamites in the Bible are what? The so-called East Indians. Those are the East Indians of today, right? So even in biblical times, we see in where, you know, all these nations now had us under captivity at some point or the other. You understand? And all of them are our enemies, including the East Indians. Continue.
Verse 10. On the seventh day, when the heart of the king was merry with wine, he commanded Mehuman, Bista, Abona, Bigta, and Abagta, Zethar, and Carcass, the 7 chamberlains that served in the presence of Assyrius the king, to bring Vashti, the queen, before the king with the crown royal, to show the people and the princess her beauty, for she was fair to look on.
Right, so the queen, for him, good looking. So you say, yo, I'm gonna bring this woman here and show she off basically to the big boys and them. Yeah, look my wife here thing, look how good she's looking, because he's the king. He had everything in the grab, so he's showing you I had the best. Or that way he thought. But going and call the king now, you're going to encounter a problem. Continue, Babu Kashan.
Verse 12. But the queen Vashti refused to come at the king's commandment by his chamberlains. Therefore was the king very wroth, and his anger burned in him.
So she refused to come meet the king, which even for a heathen is a total disrespect. You understand? Even at their level. And same thing even here for the nation of Israel. But same thing for blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians, that women have to be able to what? Understand their place. They have to understand that they what? They need to honor their husband. And for Vashti now to disrespect the king by saying, you know, me coming by you, the king, who is in control of 127 provinces, you basically snubbing the king and telling him, yo, I not coming. And he, with all the big boys, maybe if he wasn't with all them people and she tell him that he coming, maybe. But him being in front of all these people and in all his power, and you refuse him, that's a complete disrespect. And even with that, we have to understand in the nation of Israel, women have to understand their position, because there's an order. There's no equality. There's no equality on youth. And there's no equality even in our relationship. And if you look in the scriptures, you'll be able to understand and see that there's an order in the scriptures. And to show and prove that order, Babu Kesha, if we could get 1 Corinthians 11, and we start from verse 1, where the scriptures show the order that we're supposed to have in the household in regards to the position of men and women according to the scripture. Yes,
First Corinthians chapter 11 and verse 3. But I would have you know that the head of every man is Yahushua.
That the head of what?
That the head of every man is Yahushua.
Is Yahushua. Continue, Mabukusha.
And the head of the woman is the man.
And the head of the woman is the what?
Is the man.
So it have no equality there. You understand? It have no 50-50 and all this thing that the so-called white man trying to push. Not just the white man, but the Christian church. Your Christian pastors basically destroying your houses by what? Removing these boundaries that the Most High set up for what? To get proper order and structure in your household. So your Christian pastor telling you 50-50, and there's no understanding of what that does to the structure of the home. Go ahead.
And the head of Yahushua is the Most High.
And the head of Yahushua is what? The Most High. So there's an order. There's the Most High, Christ, man, woman, and then come down to what? The children. So I just want to bring out that so that we get to understand that there's no so-called equality. Now each man runs his household, and the power and the reason for this structure is for what? Order and for what? Responsibility. And when judgment has to come, there's also an order for that as well. Because when decision making has to come, and when judgments have to come, somebody has to face it. That is the purpose and the understanding of having, these structures in place, so that when decisions have to be made, there's no confusion about what is taking place. So, Baba Kusha, we can go back to the story.
Continue.
Yeah, continue. So what?
First Esther chapter 1 and verse 13. Then the king said to the wise men, which knew the times, for so was the king's manner toward all that knew law and judgment. And the next unto him was Kashina, Shita, Admatha, Tarshish, Merez, Marsina, and Mumakan, and Memucan, the 7 princes of Persia and Media, which saw the king's face, and which sat the first in the kingdom.
Right, so these men were basically his head top men. These were the men that, those were like ministers. That's like how we have the system now. We have the prime minister, and you have your cabinet. So that was basically like the king's cabinet there. So you had all his ministers, his chamberlains, right? So the chamberlains, is really, an officer who really setting up different departments in the kingdom. Understand? So these men were the men right up to the king, so that they will be able to whatever the king say, them handling different sections of the kingdom, who handling security, among handle, food, among who handle, dressing the place, organizing stuff for the
SHALAM,
for the kingdom. So all these were men who had power within the kingdom. Okay. Continue, Bapusha.
Verse 15. What shall we do unto the queen Vashti according to the law? Because she had not performed the commandment of the king Ahasuerus by the chamberlains. And Memucan answered before the king and the princes, Vashti the queen had not done wrong to the king only, but also to all the princes and to all the people that are in the provinces of the king Ahasuerus.
So even these heathens understood that when a woman is out of order, it's chaos. You understand? And even us here, not just in the I.S.U.P.K, but all Israel is what's supposed to have the house in order. And each man's supposed to have his house in order, in that understanding that his wife needs to obey him. And not just, okay, this is a slave and master kind of situation, but this is being obedient under Christ and under our king, who is called Yahweh Shai in Hebrew. Understand? So there's an order. So anytime there's a disrespect or there's disorder in that, something has to be done. You understand? And where that comes in now is where even these heathens understood that. Because if she is the queen and she's setting that kind of example towards the king, the man who owns 127 provinces, then what? As we say, he's bad shit. You understand? He in real problems. So when these women, if these women learn this evil lesson from this queen, that will be real problems, right? And even as you said that, Babakasha, if somebody could pull, I think it's Ecclesiastes 9 and 1, Babakasha. You understand? This is talking about, teaching or showing your wife an evil lesson and what that could cause. I want to think
The book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 9 and verse 1. Be not jealous over the wife of thy bosom, and teach her not an evil lesson against thyself.
So if this king didn't do something about what happened between him and Vashti, would that be a real problem? Because why? That would have been an evil lesson against the king. But this scripture is for what? The nation of Israel. But even those heathens understood that if they didn't do something about this, each man's household would have been in jeopardy. Let's continue with the story about Krishna.
Yeah, come. The book of Esther, chapter 1 and verse 17. For this deed of the queen shall come abroad unto all women, so that they shall despise their husbands in their eyes, when it shall be reported, the king Ahasuerus commanded Vashti, the queen, to be brought in before him, but she came not. Likewise shall the ladies of Persia and Media say this day unto all the king's princes which have heard of the deed of the queen, thus shall there arise too much contempt and wrath.
Too much what?
Contempt and wrath.
Too much contempt and wrath. So even these heathen kings know that if a woman is out of order, there are problems. You understand? So each woman, I don't know what, I don't know the place. At the end of the day, you is not your own. Once you're under the instruction of a man, which is would be your husband. You understand? So you can't do what you want, you can't talk what you want, you can't go where you want, because why? You're under subjection, under the rulership of your husband. You understand? So this king understood that, and they wanted to make she an example. You understand? This Elamite woman called Vashti, which is really what the East Indians today. You understand? And we see how the East Indians run their household. You understand? Everybody know how the Indian man is run his house. But what we have to understand is how we, black people, black Hispanics and Native Indians, how we run our house. We can't have our women disrespecting us. But what? Your Christian pastor say, no, God is love and everything else under the sun. You understand? And teaching what? An evil lesson to our wives. To what? Disrespect us in our own house. Right? Continue, Babu Kasha.
Verse 19. Let there go a royal commandment from him, and let it be written among the laws of the Persians and the Medes, that it be not altered, that Vashti come no more before Ahasuerus, and let the king give her royal estate unto another that is better than she.
So you see, he basically what? Chose you for the throne. You understand? For that great disrespect. The man keeping a big party and he tell you if to come and she was telling me go holiday. Nah, that don't work. You understand? Any basic man, well, unless he's a homosexual, in most cases, and then well, basically who always homosexuals right now. You understand? But anybody who have any ounce of maleness, I can't say masculinity, maleness, will understand that that is total disrespect. So they have to solve that problem. Continue, Babu Kasha.
Verse 20. And when the king decree, which he shall make, shall be published throughout all his empire, for it is great, all the wives shall give to their husbands honor, both to great and small.
Give to the husbands what?
Honor, both to the great and small.
The street and the man who are high office, they make it a law in that time for that kingdom, in that heathen kingdom, that what? The wife, each man's wife supposed to what? Respect him. No matter where he is, no matter where he's working. You understand? And we here in the I.S.U.P.K under commanding Gen.YAHANNA, who are the priests and prophets of the Lord. You understand? Who are what? Who are the nation of Israel. We have to what? Understand that our wives is precious to us. But our wives have to understand that we are what? We are the priests and kings of our home. And they have to respect that. But I know what? I know independent woman, my money is my money, and 50-50.
Right.
And all this kind of BS that is so-called, and this whole independent woman, Indian woman. How much Indian women have independent woman status? Every Indian woman going on work and bring it to the husband. But the black woman, I don't want no man. You understand? But they brush it up, down, and center, making 99 trend. But they want no man. Because why? Because of the evil lesson being taught to her by what? Our oppressor. You understand? And this is something that we had to change. This is what the I.S.U.P.K under commanding Gen.YAHANNA is changing by raising up what? Righteous men. So that when their righteous men are made, they win what? not also make whores out of our women. Because we have our part to play. You understand? So we had to do what we need to do to raise what righteous sisters. And in the I.S.U.P.K under commandment GEN.YAHANNA, we raise what righteous sisters. This is what we do here. You understand? We don't what create no whores out of the daughters of Israel. We take whores and make what brand new creatures. We make virgins again. You can be a virgin again if you come in the I.S.U.P.K under commandment GEN.YAHANNA. It's not impossible. It is possible. You'll be a brand new virgin. So come out of that whore of a Christian church that the Christian pastor telling you, come to church and you ain't cook food for your husband. You're basically destroying your household. All these things are what witchcraft that your Christian pastor is doing. And this is just tip of the iceberg. But here now we're going to see what a righteous sister. You understand? Who understood the laws and the commandments. Who understood what? Her place. You understand? And was taught well. You understand? By our brother. You understand? Who instilled in her what values and morals and ethics. That we should understand what? That her people come first, no matter what. And in the story, we'll see that. And this is why a book is named after her in these scriptures. Continue, Baba Kusha.
Verse 20. And when the king's decree, which he shall make, shall be published throughout all his empire, for it is great, all the wives shall give to their husbands honor, both to great and small. And the saying pleased the king and the princes, and the king did according to the word of Mimikwan. For he sent letters into all the king's provinces, into every province according to thereof, and to every people after their language, that every man should bear rule in his own house, and that it should be published according to the language of every people.
Right? So every man should rule what? His own house. You understand? The pastor not supposed to rule your house when it comes to the nation of Israel. Every black, Hispanic, and Native Indian man supposed to rule their own house. So the pastor not supposed to dictate what's going on in your house. No other man. That is yours. You understand? And any I.S.U.P.K under commandment GEN.YAHANNA, what we teach men how to rule their house. That is what we do inside here.
Right.
Teach men how to be what? Real men. You understand? Through what? Brotherhood. And that's what it is about. Brotherhood teaches these men inside the I.S.U.P.K under commandment GEN.YAHANNA how to be real men, righteous men according to the scriptures. Where in this law, in this book called the Bible, you can be what? Perfect. Every day, all day, all through the year. And that is what's being done here in the I.S.U.P.K under commandment GEN.YAHANNA. Continue, Baba Kusha. Start from 2 and 1.
Book of Esther, chapter 2 and verse 1. After these things, when the wrath of the king Ahasuerus was appeased, he remembered Vashti and what she had done, and what was decreed against her. Verse 2. Then the king's servants and ministers unto him, let there be fair young virgins sought for the king.
So the king now say here, what? Throw away Vashti. You understand? And Vashti was what? A Elamite, who we know in the Bible is what? The East Indian study. You understand? So he throw away that Indian woman and say, yo, bring some young, fresh virgins here. You understand? For that disrespect. Continue, Baba Kusha.
And let the king appoint officers in all the provinces of his kingdom, that they may gather together all the fair young virgins unto Shushan,
right,
to the house of the woman, unto the custody of Hegi, the king's chamberlain, keeper of the woman, and let their things be purification be given to them.
Right? But because I jump down to verse 5.
Verse 5. Now in Shushan, the palace, there was a certain Jew whose name was Mordecai, the son of Jairah, the son of Shimei, the son of Kish, a Benjamite.
A Benjamite, right, was one of the tribes of the nation of Israel, is what? The so-called West Indian city. We are Benjamites, right? From all the islands, from Trinidad, Grenada, go up the Caribbean chain, except for Cuba, Haiti, and Dominica, right? The Cubans are Manasseh, right? The Haitians are Levi, and the Dominicans are Simeon, right? So all the Caribbean islands are so-called Benjamites, predominantly on this side of the hemisphere, right? So we are the so-called Benjamites according to the Bible, according to archaeology, according to prophecy. Continue, Baba Kusha.
Verse 6. Who had been carried away from Jerusalem with the captivity which had been carried away with Jehoiakim, king of Judah, whom Nebuchadnezzar the king of Babylon had carried away.
Right, so when Nebuchadnezzar came and destroyed Jerusalem at that time, as you know, Nebuchadnezzar is one of those famous kings, you know, who's also in the book of Daniel, as well as other scriptures. So Daniel also was part of that captivity at that point in time. Understand? We don't know if Daniel was in that area of Shushan, but we know at that time the nation of Israel was scattered through all those provinces at that time. So now we're going in to see who this, who Mordecai is, his lineage, and we're going to see what took place. Continue, Baba Kusha.
Verse 7. And he brought up Hadassah.
Brought up who?
Hadassah.
Hadassah. Now, Hadassah is the Hebrew name for Esther. That was her Hebrew name. As you know, Esther was the other name given to her. Right? But Hadassah is her Hebrew name. And Hadassah in the Hebrew is what? Is myrtle, or the myrtle tree. Right? And the myrtle tree is synonymous to being fruitful. Right? Or being, you know, how a woman will be, you know, make a lot of children. You know, say she's real fruitful, she make real children. Or some people would say she's a baby maker. You know, in some areas, some context. But she basically, the name symbolizing that she was fruitful in aspect of making children. Go ahead, Baba Kusha.
That is Esther, his uncle's daughter.
Is who?
Uncle's daughter.
Continue.
For she had neither father nor mother, and the maid was fair and beautiful.
So she had no father and mother, and this is what, you know, real brotherhood and real sisterhood stands for in the I.S.U.P. Right? So his uncles, right? Yeah, that would be his cousin, right? So he took care of his little cousin, you understand, and what, grew her up to be what, a woman, understanding what he's supposed to do as what, a righteous brother, which is absolute brotherhood. You understand? And the scripture says she was fair and beautiful. We know. You understand? The Caribbean women, trust me. Benjamites, to be more specific, we are some of the most baddest women outside here. You understand? People come from all over the world, quote unquote. You understand? To look at our sisters. You understand? You know, even though we have this so-called heathen holiday carnival and all these things, when you look at, you know, the scope of our people, or especially our women, blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians, to be more specific.
Right.
You understand? We talk about outside here. We're talking about blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indian women. And in this case, more specifically, so-called Benjamites. You understand? Are some of the most good-looking women that have outside in the world. The most. You understand? I ain't trying to shade everybody, the whole of Israel. You understand? Good, but Benjamite women, yeah, that's something special. I'll give them that. Continue, Baba Kusha.
When her father and mother was dead, took for his own daughter.
Took for what?
His own daughter.
Took for his own daughter. So, you know, did the brotherly thing and took care of the sister. You understand? And did what he's supposed to do. Continue.
So it came to pass, when the king's commandment, his decree was heard, and when many maidens were gathered together unto Shushan the palace, to the custody of Haggai, that Esther was brought also unto the king's house, to the custody of Haggai, keeper of the women.
Right? So basically, when the king's men come around, they see Esther, they say, nah, she too bad. We gotta take she. You understand? So they took her, they bring her up to the house, and you see she got favor. You understand? In the sight of, you know, one of the king's chamberlains, one of the king's ministers. Right? So we got jump down. Verse 10.
Book of Esther, chapter 2 and verse 10. Esther had not shown her people nor her kindred, for Mordecai had charged her that she should not show it.
And this was our very wise brother. You understand? And the reason why he did, because he understood, you know, what could happen. Because she up in this so-called position of power. You understand? And one of the main things that most of us do, you understand, especially when you're in the world, when you have a little bit of fame, quote unquote, a little bit of power is what you want to flaunt it. You have this new Lamborghini, this new car, you have a big house. You want to show off everything, which is ridiculous because why? You're just making yourself an open target. You understand? You don't need to show off. You understand? And that's what sometimes most of our entertainers do and our sports figures. You know, you get cash available money, you just, and what? Your people suffering. So what is he saying? It should be a disgrace for you to be doing something like that and your people suffering. That don't make sense. So this brother was very wise and letting her know. And he said he charged her. So he let you know here we see. Make sure and don't let nobody know what's going on here. Because why? He understood what could be the repercussions of that. Continue, Baba Bishop.
Verse 11. And Mordecai walked every day before the court of the woman's house to know how Esther did.
He what? He walked every day before?
Before the court of the woman's house to know how Esther did and what should become of her.
Right? So he made sure and understand here, I need to find out what going on with my cousin. You understand? Because he raised her up to be a young woman and she was in this place, you know, before a heathen king. So you want to make sure that everything okay with this sister, which is what? Brotherhood again. Continue.
Verse 12. Now when every maid's turn was come to go into the king Ahasuerus, after she had been 12 months, according to the manner of the days of women. For so were the days of their purifications accomplished, to wit, 6 months with the and 6 months with sweet odors, and with other things for the perfume of the woman.
Right, for the purifying of the woman. So when the king take these virgins, you understand? He give them 1 year. Let's imagine that. 1 year. Sweet odors, they get the best of every single thing. 1 year to fatten you up for the king. If you want to put it like that. So it took 1 year and get the best treatment they could get to what? To bring or present these young virgins before the king. Understand that? So this was the preparation that Esther also went through, along with all these other virgins. Right? So let's jump down to verse 15.
Verse 15. Now, when the turn of Esther, the daughter of Abihail, the uncle of Mordecai, who had taken her for his daughter, was come to go in unto the king, she required nothing but what Haggai, the king's chamberlain, the keeper of the woman, appointed. And Esther obtained favor in the sight of all them that looked upon her.
So this woman, this sister, was bad. You understand? So much so that she stood out of all these women. So picture you have as let's say like today now, or what you used to have, you didn't have it again, like the Miss Universe pageant. So out of the Miss Universe pageant, this Benjamite, this West Indian, beat everybody, tooth and nail. You understand? That nobody to compete him or him come close. You understand? To this Benjamin sister. Continue, Babu Kusha.
Verse 16. So Esther was taken unto King Ahasuerus into his house royal in the 10th month, which is the month Tebet, in the 7th year of his reign. Verse 17. And the king loved Esther above all the women.
Yeah, well, she mashed up this man here. You understand? He said he loved Esther above all. So all these women, all these virgins that they brought, he basically refused them. When he see Esther, he said, nah, that is the one. You understand? And that was where, you know, he took it further and made her what? Queen instead of Vashti. Right? So he gave her that Holy Indian, threw she away. You understand, for that disrespect? And brought our sister, you understand, into the palace. Continue Babu Kasha on verse 20. Tawala.
Book of Esther, chapter 2 and verse 20. And Esther had not yet shown her kindred, nor her people, as Mordecai had charged her, for Esther did the command of Mordecai, like as when she was brought up with him.
Right, so she understood that what? She was under a heathen king. You understand? And because of that, you know, Mordecai, because of the training she got from a righteous brother, she understood here. No matter where it is, no matter where you do, you had to listen to what? Your people. You understand? She never forgot that. So she understood and kept the commandments. So whatever Mordecai tells you to do, whatever Mordecai tells you to say or to operate, that's basically what she did. And all blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians, that's what we're supposed to do. You understand? Whenever our women are in, you know, in these places, because why? We under what? Under slavery. We're under what? The oppression of what? These nations. You understand? We're supposed to work towards the benefit of our people. Because what? The East Indian women do that. The Chinese women do that.
Right.
You understand? They seek the interests of their people. So why black woman? You have to seek the interests of what? Your people. You understand? Instead of seeking the interests of what? The white man, seeking the interests of the East Indian man, seeking the interests of the Chinese man, and what? You're saying what? Me want a man, them black man, them ain't good. Then what? You're bringing down your own people. You're destroying what? Your own people. And that is what happening. Because why? East Indians not doing that. All the independent women thing that happening all over the world. These East Indian women have their husbands. These Chinese women have their husband. They're running up and down and everywhere. They don't have 4 and 5. Yeah, go ahead, Babu.
I remember, you know, a time like, you know, like when Captain Zara was on the streets. And remember now with the brother and the white woman and the
right.
If she go against she people.
That's right.
And she could not even answer.
She could not even answer. That's a perfect example. You understand? So when you go outside and you marry into these other nations, they are not going. You understand? When you black woman go and marry Chinese, they are not going to forsake their people for you. So that's why you must not forsake your people. Find a righteous black man in the I.S.U.P.K under commanding General YAHANNA and stick to him. You understand? Because why? He will bring you what? Give you righteous judgment and treatment. You understand? Now what happened out in the world here now? Where they just make it what? Slaves. You understand? Make it what? A slut. No. We making what? Righteous sisters in the I.S.U.P.K under commanding General YAHANNA. I'll continue, Babu Bishop.
Verse 21. In those days, while Mordecai sat in the king's gate, two of the king's chamberlains, Bigtan and Teresh, of those which kept the door, were wroth, and sought to lay hands on the Assyrians.
So we see here now a plot. So we had these two chamberlains. Basically, these are 20 big boys. So 20 big boys, men who really close up to him. You understand? Like whatever disagreement they had, that the point where two of them conspiring to what? Kill the king. And Mordecai, you know, this Benjamin brother, overhear them, you know, get wind of what they was trying to do. You understand? And this brother did something that what? Set up something for later down. You understand? That would help the nation of Israel. Go ahead, Baba Kusha.
And the things was known unto Mordecai, who told it unto Esther the queen. And Esther certified the king thereof in Mordecai's name.
So Mordecai tell Esther, and Esther say here what? She goes straight to the king and say here what? This guy here, you understand? My cousin Mordecai. So she let him know for sure that this is the man who discovered the plot. You understand? And bring it to the king. And once you bring it to your attention, we will see exactly what happened. Continue, Baba Kusha.
And when the inquisition was made of the matter, it was found out, therefore they were both hanged on a tree. And it was written in the book of the Chronicles before the king.
Right, so once the king make inquiry of what's going on, you realize, yeah, boy, them fellas really looking to come from it. What's the truth? You understand? Hang them up on a tree and deal with them. So those two men who was really close to the king tried to kill him. The plot found by Mordecai, and Mordecai let the king know through Esther. You understand? Because why he always keeping in connection with her. You understand? To know what's going on. And that basically was done, and that was written what in the book of the Chronicles of the king. So this deed that he did, the king write it down so that they wouldn't forget what took place. So as we go through now, we will understand what happened as we continue to go along. Continue, Baba Kusha.
The book of Esther, chapter 3 and verse 1. After these things did King Ahasuerus promote Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, and advanced him and set his seat above all the princes that were with him.
Now, this man here now, Haman, right, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite. You understand? The Agagites are one of the so-called descendants of the so-called Jewish man today. You understand? So he was one of the descendants. You understand that so-called that Saul, King Saul was supposed to kill. You understand? Supposed to wipe out these so-called Jewish. You understand? These so-called Amalekites. Yes, you understand? So he is one of the descendants of the Amalekites. Right? And he says Hamadat, the Agagite. So these so-called Jewish men, he was one of them. And again, we know how the so-called Jewish people operate. Very slimy, very slick, always looking for what? Positions of power. So he slimy way up to get the highest seat, you understand, in that kingdom, next to King Ahasuerus. You understand? For whatever means, whatever trick and trap and ploys and lies they use. So the so-called white man always use lies to get what? In positions of power. Right. Continue, Baba Kusha.
Verse 2. And all the king's servants that were in the king's gate bowed and reverenced Haman.
The what?
Bowed and reverenced Haman.
And we know they love that. They love to get what? You know, all our honor, all our praise, all our attention on them. You gotta bow down to them. Even today you're seeing it. You understand? These are the kind of things that the so-called white man teaching these other nations to make what blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians bow down before them. You understand? But we serve a righteous king, and we were bow down to what? To none. You understand? And this righteous brother Mordecai, he understood that. And because what? Because he did that, he was seen as what? He was seen what? Rebellious. You understand? So as you read the story, you'll get to see what actually happened. Continue, Baba Kusha.
For the king had so commanded concerning him, but Mordecai bowed not.
Mordecai what?
Bowed not.
Continue.
Nor did him reverence.
And did him what?
Reverence.
Nor did him reverence. Because why? These are heathen. He didn't bow down to no heathen. And Mordecai understood that, and he didn't care. You understand? That was a righteous brother who understood the law and kept the law. And you know what? I ain't bound down to you. Who is you? You understand? We supposed to wipe all you out. You understand? Anytime I Saul. But because Saul what? Spared some of them. Their seed, their remnant came what? Back. And became what? The so-called Jewish man today. You understand? So Mordecai understood who this man was. And say, yeah, me? Nah. You could do what you want. Me bound to you. And show you what? Reverence? Nah. Yeah, go ahead. That's right. That's right. Yeah. They understood that history as Professor Swab rightly bringing out, of where King Saul was supposed to slay all the Amalekites. But what he saved some of them, including one of the king. And when Samuel came, you understand, he said the Most High what gave an instruction to wipe them out. And Samuel did what? Take his sword and hack that man to death. And this man, Haman, they knew that. They knew the history between the Jews and the Amalekites. They understand that history. So when you get to understand and see what's going on, you understand this, what came up in his heart, because what that hatred was always there. You understand? Continue, Babu Kusha.
Verse 3. Then the king's servants, which were in the king's gate, said unto Mordecai, Why transgressest thou the king's commandments?
Now this is a real key. They said, then the king's servants, which were in the king's gate, said unto Mordecai, Why transgressest thou the king's commandment? So them asking him now, so what is he seeing? So how come you're not bowing to this man? So picture this is like, you know, Donald Trump. Well, Donald Trump not there again. This would be like, let me make it more to down here. We are the queen, because you know we used to be under this, China used to be under the queen ownership, but they bring it to now. What's he now? Joe Biden. This is like Joe Biden. You understand? Second in command, Kamala Harris, that East Indian, or that white woman, whoever she is, because she's not black. Her father is white. You understand? Irish. Kamala Harris is not a black woman. She's East Indian and white, Irish. So she is an Irish woman. You understand? She is not black. She is impersonating as a black woman. So let me get that straight. So this is like Kamala Harris come down to Trinidad, and you know you're expecting her to bow and to, you know, show she reverence now. But you say, who is you? You'll go your way. So they're vexed that you're not showing what? This heathen no respect. And that is what they deserve, no respect. Because we understand the history of these people having us under subjection. And we're not supposed to show them no kind of reverence. Understand? And that is in, you know, through the scriptures. If we could probably pull Ecclesiastes 4:22. If somebody can get that for me. You understand? If you can get that, that would be able to, you know, get a better understanding of how we're supposed to deal with these heathens. Yeah, to what? Babu. Understand? Continue, Babu Kusha. Yeah.
Book of Esther, chapter 3, and verse 4. Now it came to pass, when they spake daily unto him, and he hearkened not unto them.
So this was not one time thing. They say, Mordecai we seen. So he ain't born down to him, man. 1 day pass, 2 day pass, or however times he was at the gate. And that alone let you know Mordecai had, to be at the king's gate. You understand? So every time them fellas passing, he's watching him. And it's no different now where these heathens watching and seeing where blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians are and what. It's just as simply as what carrying news. You understand? Continue.
Not, nor did him reverence. Then was Haman full with wrath.
So like start over from verse 4.
Verse 4. Now it came to pass, when they spake daily unto him, and he hearkened not unto them, that they told Haman to see whether Mordecai's matters would stand. For he had told them a Jew.
Right. So he let them. So these men now carry the news to Haman and let him not bowing to you. You understand? This man not paying you no reverence. Because why? Because they're doing it. These heathens doing it. They want him to do it. But you know what he tell them? He tell them plain and simple that he is a Jew. You understand? And based on our laws and our commandments, we ain't bowing down to nobody. You understand? We ain't showing them that kind of reverence. And I'll bring the scripture of Ecclesiastes. So lucky. Ecclesiastes chapter 4 and verse 22. Understand? But there you understand how we're supposed to function. Now there's different type of reverence. You understand when it comes to scripture. So we have to understand which is the right type of reverence that you should put. You understand? And these what these scriptures are going to help, give that understanding. Ecclesiastes 4 and 22. Babu Shah, if somebody could hold from the Jeremiah chapter 2 and verse 33.
Ecclesiastes
4 and 22. Oh, Salakia, Ecclesiastes. I have it written on. So we see here now where Mordecai didn't compromise. You understand? If anybody have the Jeremiah 2 and Sorry?
Ecclesiastes chapter 4 and verse 22. Accept no person against thy soul.
So like say it one more time.
Accept no person against thy soul.
Accept what?
No person against thy soul.
Go ahead.
And let not the reverence of any man cause thee to fall.
Reverence.
The reverence of any man cause thee to fall.
Read it one more time, Babu Kasha.
Ecclesiastes chapter 4 and verse 22. Accept no person against thy soul.
Accept no person against thy soul. So don't put nobody up there. You understand? Don't put nobody on no pedestal, because why? That could be a destruction to your soul. Continue, Babu Kasha.
And let no reverence of any man cause thee to fall.
And let no reverence of any man cause thee to fall. Don't let this man, because he in this position of power, or he could offer you something, or he has something, some pie in the sky. You understand? Because sometimes we could be looking after different things. You understand? And get caught up and cause what? This man's reverence, because what? He might have a position of power, or he might have something that you feel you want. And that could what cause you to what fall. You understand? So that is something that we have to be very wary about and understand that this is not what we're supposed to be what putting no reverence in any man for. So Haman wanted what? Mordecai to what? Put reverence, because why? He's the big boy. You understand? But Mordecai know that you ain't getting that kind of reverence from me. You understand? And if he go long, you'll be able to see the kind of reverence that we supposed to put. You understand? Babuka Shah, somebody could pull that as well. Jeremiah 2:1-3.
Ecclesiasticus 7.
29. Babuka Shah.
Ecclesiasticus chapter 7, verse 29. Fear the Most High with all thy soul, and reverence his priest.
Fear the who?
Fear the Most High with all thy soul.
Fear the Most High with all thy soul. Go ahead.
And reverence his priest.
And reverence his priest, because why? The Most High speaks through these men. The men in I.S.U.P.K under commanding GEN.YAHANNA. You understand? These are the men you have to reverence. These men you have to understand. The generals, the captains, the officers. You understand? Because why? We look after and seek after the souls of our people. You understand? Not these heathens. Keep on reverencing these heathens. You understand? And Mordecai definitely did not want to do that, because he understood where he's supposed to be. So let's put one more in Jeremiah 2:33.
The book of Jeremiah, chapter 2 and verse 33. Why trimmest thou thy way to seek love?
Why what?
Trimmest thou thy way to seek love?
So Mordecai wasn't willing to trim his ways to seek love. He didn't want to get no favor from the king, or from Haman, to be more specific. You understand? He was who he was, and he was a righteous man at that. So he wasn't trimming his ways. He wasn't bowing and sucking up and doing anything else. He just be him. You understand? A Jew, or how he's supposed to be. Right? So Babuka Shawi, let's go back to the story in the book of Esther. We was at verse, finish verse 4, going on verse 5. 3 and 5.
Esther chapter 3 and verse 5. And when Haman saw Mordecai bowed not, nor did him reverence, then was Haman full of wrath.
And that's how these heathens are. When you ain't bowing down to them, when you ain't doing what they say, when you're not at the beck and call, guess what? They're vexed. You understand? When you ain't doing what they do, or what they expect you to do, you're in problems. Continue.
What scorn who lay hands on Mordecai alone showed him the people of Mordecai, and sought to destroy all the Jews that were throughout the whole kingdom of Ahasuerus, even the people of Mordecai.
So these are nasty and sting. You understand? This Mordecai was. You understand? Not only that, he said, hey man, say what I will deal with Mordecai. But these other heathens, because why? They don't like us either. They want to tell him, and here what? Look at all the people. Look at all the Jews living here. They understand what we could do about that. And because he's what? Second in command in the kingdom, he said, here, kill all of them. You understand? He won the blood of all. So he didn't want to kill Mordecai alone. He want to kill what? All the Jews. And these how these other nations see us. You understand? They want to what? Just get rid of us. Don't feel them East Indians like all you. Don't feel them Chinese and them like all you. Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians. All our brothers coming from Venezuela. Don't feel these Indians and love you. Because why? They don't want to give you a work and stuff. They want to use you. All these bars and restaurants and whorehouses. That's all I want to do to our people. Use us as slaves. When it's done, that is it.
7. In the first month, that is in the month of Nisan, in the 12th year of the king of Ahasuerus, they cast pur, that is the lot before Haman, from the day to day, and from month to month, to the 12th month, that is the month of Adar.
So basically they're casting a lot, so that they're making judgments and choosing what to do here and what to do here. So he came on in the big boy seat, and they're making different judgments of what to take place. Continue.
Verse 8, and Haman said unto King Ahasuerus, there is a certain people scattered abroad and dispersed among the people.
There's what?
There is a certain people scattered abroad and dispersed among in all the provinces of thy kingdom.
So we're seeing here where, even the scriptures before, all through the scriptures, you're seeing where Israel will be what? Dispersed, scattered, all over. Continue.
And the Lord are dispersed from all people.
Diverse.
Diverse from all people. Neither keep they the king lords. Therefore, it is not for the king profit to suffer them.
So even in our captivity, before we understood who we was, and we kept the laws of the Most High. You understand? And they knew that. And Haman knew that because why? He was an Amalekite, and he knew the history between the Jews and the Amalekites. You understand? And they know that we had different laws. We eat no pork, crab, lobster, and shrimp. We kept the high holy days, even though we were in captivity. It's only now because we in this last captivity that we were destroyed. You understand? Because we destroyed not knowing who we were as a people. To know that we are the 12 tribes of the nation of Israel. Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians. Continue, Baba Kusha.
Verse 9. If it please the king, let it be written that they may be destroyed. And I will pay 10,000 talents of silver to the hand of those that have the charge of the business, to bring it into the king's treasuries.
So this man, to make sure that he get rid of it, that kind of hatred that these other nations have for us, and that didn't change up to now. That is why even now they still call us cockroach and pests. You understand? This East Indian girl got killed. You understand? Got murdered. Now murder is wrong. You understand? Murder is wrong. And if you did the murder, you have to get judgment and justice for that. But what they're watching, all this big uproar for this East Indian girl who got killed, all big on social media, this and walk and march and everything. When our sisters die, nobody come out and march. No, they get basically almost no media attention. You might hear something on news one night and that is it. The investigation sometimes isn't even go on. But this East Indian get all this airplay. And when they realize it looking kind of, halfway or looking kind of bad, they started bringing one or two sisters' name. They kind of make it look decent now. You understand? But we already know what's going on. We know what's going on already. But our sisters are left out. Continue, Baba Kusha.
Verse 10. And the king took his ring from his hand and gave it unto Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, the Jew enemy.
The what?
The Jew enemy.
The Jews' enemy. So these so-called Amalekites, who the so-called Jewish white man who in so-called Israel today, is our enemy. And all these other nations is our enemies. The East Indians is our enemies, the Chinese is our enemies, the whites, Africans, all of them is what? All of them are our enemies. Continue.
Verse 11. And the king said unto Haman, the silver is given to thee, the people also to do with them as it seemeth good to thee.
Drop that there. Let me start from chapter 4 and 1. Baba Kusha. So just to give out a backdrop for the other rest of the verses, they made a decree. You understand that they will wipe out every single Jew that was in the province. You understand? So this is what Haman and all these other heathens planned. Went to the king and say, give me license to kill every single black, Hispanic, and Native Indian in that province. Yeah, go ahead, Dr. Swart.
So that and as I make mention of that, he was given the license to the authority to wherever the Jews were scattered about.
That's right. And so in all the 127 provinces, there was one hunt and kill all the Jews.
Because he was second to the king, so he was given all the license right to that king.
That's right. So he was in that position of power. You understand? He was second to the king.
That's why we make mention that all these other nations wanted to destroy us.
That's right. So now, because of that, because he is in that position of power, all these other nations were seeking, his power and his authority to what? Destroy us. So all these other nations were, just as Psalm 83 said, they what? Had crafty counsels against thy. And it's the same nations that what are mentioned in those scriptures in Psalm 83. All those nations were under those empires at that time. So let's start from 4:1, Babu Kusha.
Esther chapter 4 and verse 1. And when Mordecai perceived all that was done, Mordecai rent his clothes and put on sackcloth with ashes and went out into the midst of the city and cried with a loud and a bitter cry.
So he didn't keep it no secret. Understand? Because he understood what was going to happen and what these heathens was plotting and trying to do to the nation of Israel. Continue.
Verse 2, and came even before the king gate, for none might enter into the king gate, clothed with sackcloth. Verse 3, and in every province, whithersoever the king commandments and his decree came, there was great mourning among the Jews, and fasting, and weeping, and wailing, and many lay a sorrowful and ashes.
So you see, wherever the Jews were, we understood at that time that here is death in every single area that we was. You understand? And wherever we were, sackcloth and ashes. Men had started praying one time to the Most High because they understood that this plot was to completely eradicate the nation of Israel, who were under that kingdom at the time. Continue, Babu Kusha.
Verse 4, so Esther maids and her chamberlains came and told it her. Then was the queen exceedingly grieved, and she sent a raiment to the clothed Mordecai, and take away his sackcloth from him, but he received it not.
Right, because he understood here, this is not, something that, to be cheerful about. He was in mourning. And he understood something that she didn't catch yet. And as we read through here, we understand, and he will explain to her where she is. Don't feel you ain't gonna get touched. Continue.
Verse 5, and then called Esther for the hatch, one of the whom he had appointed to attend upon her, and gave him a commandment to Mordecai to know what it was and why it was.
Continue.
So the hatch went forth to Mordecai unto the street of the city, which was before the king's gate. Verse 7, and Mordecai told him of all that had happened unto him, and of the sum of the money that Haman had provided to pay the king treasury for the Jews to destroy them.
Continue.
Verse 8, also he gave him the copy of the writing of the decree that was given unto Shushan to destroy them, to show it unto Esther, and to declare it unto her, and to charge her that she should go in unto the king, to make a supplication unto him, and unto make a request before him for her people.
Continue.
Verse 9, and the hatch came and told of Mordecai.
Continue.
Verse 10, and again Esther spake unto Hatch, and gave him the commandment unto Mordecai. Verse 11, all the king's servants and the people of the king province, who know that whatsoever, whether man or woman, shall come unto the king into the inner court, who is not called, there is one law of his to put him to death, except the king shall hold unto the golden scepter, that he may live. But I have not been called to come in unto the king these 30 days.
So we see here in the way Esther, sometimes as most women are, she started thinking about herself. So she's studying here what? If I go by the king, I will get killed. You understand? Not understanding the real seriousness of actually what taking place. The entire nation is going to be wiped out. But she's studying what? If I go by the king will kill her because the king ain't call me. You understand? But Mordecai is basically going to check her unless you understand what really going to take place. Continue.
Verse 12, and they told, verse 12, and they told to Mordecai Esther's words. Verse 13, then Mordecai commanded to answer Esther, think not with thyself that thou shalt escape in the king's house for more than all the Jews.
You understand? So he lets you know here what? Don't feel because you're in a high seat. Don't feel because you have money. Don't feel because you live in Westmoreland. Don't feel because you live in St. Clair and you have a big house and a big car. Don't feel that them other nations not watching you as anything else. You understand? So don't feel because you have a big house and a big car that them East Indians watching you like, yeah, he get you, he make it, he's one of we. They don't care about that. They're just seeing you as just another pest or cockroach. But trust me, that is what they know. You understand? Because if you so-called don't have a car and a house, they don't care about you. They only know you as much as they can use you for something. You understand? Continue.
Verse 14, for if thou altogether holdest thy peace, at this time their enlargement and deliverance arise to the Jews from another place, but thou and thy father's house shall be destroyed, and who knoweth whether thou art come to the kingdom, for such is a time as this.
So you basically check her, unless you know here what. That way you're talking there, that don't make sense. Because you try to say about yourself, but don't feel you will get spared. Not because you're up there and use the queen, that the order mightn't reach you. Unless you know one time, if you don't want to help, no sweat, the most I will raise somebody else that will be able to deal with this situation. And this is the kind of mindset that Mordecai had, because he understood and he knew that the Most High, you understand, would come to the cries of his people, you understand, and bring some sort of deliverance out of the people. God helps us all.
And this is a good reminder as well, just as I made mention earlier considering when the question was posed to the woman, if she go give up she nation for another nation.
That's right.
But this year now was a reminder that because all women now, because again, all these major captivities.
That's right.
Tend to forget. So this was a reminder, not because they're saying on this seat. They're safe.
That's right. Because she wasn't safe.
And it was a reminder for her.
That's right.
So
yeah, and this is where she get to understand that what she was doing or the way she was thinking wasn't the right way, because what? She wasn't thinking on a nation level. She was thinking self-preservation. But what he told her, what he let you know or reminded her of is that look at the bigger picture. Because most of our women, or women in general, always look at what? The self. They're looking at the broader scheme of things. That is why under the rulership of your husband, He will be able to what, lay that foundation for you to see further than what you think, further than yourself. Right? Continue, Baba Kusha.
Verse 15, then Esther begged them, return Mordecai together all the Jews that are Shushan, and fast you for me, and neither eat nor drink 3 days, neither or day. I also and my maidens, and so will I go in on which is not according to the law. And if I perish, I perish.
If she what?
If I perish, I perish.
So she basically make up she mind, you know, because she really understand what is the real sin happening, you know. And because of that, man, she say, yo, do or die. And she make up she mind to hear, if I had to die to save my people, that is what God did. So she really understand, you know, that to get that rewiring as she brain, to understand the bigger picture. Continue, Baba Kusha.
So Mordecai went his way and did according to all that Esther had commanded him.
Continue.
Esther chapter 5 and verse 1. Now it came to pass on the 3rd day that Esther put on her royal apparel.
She put on what?
And put on a royal apparel.
That's right.
And stood in the inner court of the king's house, over against the king's house. And then the king sat upon his royal throne in the royal house, over against the gate of the house.
Now in the Apocrypha, have the continuation of the book of Esther. Now in that account of Esther, of the continuation in the continuation of Esther, it gives a little more detail, you know, of when Esther was approaching the king. You understand? This is a very good example, you know, of women, of understanding your femininity, because this society teaching you how to be a bitch, plain and simple. When it's supposed to be what? Teaching you how to be feminine. You understand? So in the I.S.U.P.K under Commanding General Yohanna, we teach women how to be what? Feminine. You know how to fair to come back to that nature. But in this world, in this society, they teach you how to be a bitch, a hoe, a slut. You understand? You know, use this you know, all these characters that they push and portray to what? Come against. They're making you, you know, basically like a bulldog. You understand? And you basically want to challenge the masculinity of a man. So when you're putting or promoting or pushing these agendas to our women, because they don't push to Indian women, they don't push that to Chinese women, they don't push that to white women, they push that to blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians to be what? Independent women. You understand? All these ideologies of you don't want a man, I don't need a man, I don't have to have a man, that is only pushed to blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians. Whilst all these other households have their husbands, have their head, have their guidance to do what the hell they want. And their homes are what? Succeed. Their family structures are in place. That is why they rule over blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians. Because why? The rulership of blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indian homes are destroyed. And they are destroyed by because of what? The crafty counsel of these nations to keep the black household, Hispanic separate. Keep the man separate, keep the woman separate. That is the plan. Continue, Baba Kusha.
Esther chapter 5 and verse 2. And it was so, when the king saw Esther, the queen, standing in the court, that she obtained favor in his sight. And the king held out to Esther the golden scepter that was in his hand. So Esther drew near and touched the top of the scepter. Verse 3. Then the king said unto her, What will thou, Queen Esther, and what is thy request? it shall be given to thee to the half of the kingdom.
So we see here even now where Esther, she get the, what should I put it, the favor of the king. And if you go in the book of, if you go in the Apocrypha to the addition of the book of Esther, right, we'll be able to get to see what happened in that section of what took place with Esther. So if someone could, Babu Kasha, go to that part of Esther in the Apocrypha, where you'll be able to see when she approached the king and how she approached the king. So at least we get a better idea what took place. In the book of, in the Apocrypha, editions of Esther. To start from on the first part. Yeah. It's the continuation at 10.
Editions of Esther 10 and verse 5.
It's supposed to be 5 or 3. Let's start from there.
Then Mordecai said, the Most High hath done these things. I remember the dream which I saw concerning these matters.
Right. I think that part is from when Mordecai was basically explaining what happened at the end. Yeah? Go ahead, Officer. 14 and 1. To what? 14 and 1. So that will give you the what's happening here from verse chapter 5, giving you a more clear backdrop of what took place when Esther approached the king. Go ahead.
Editions of Esther 14 and verse 1. Queen Esther also being in fear of death, restored unto the Lord and laid away her glorious apparel.
And laid what?
And laid away her glorious apparel. And put on the garments of anguish.
Right. So this was when she was preparing to go to, or I should say, going in terms of the fast and pray. You understand? Because in chapter 5, you know, when her eyes closed, she go and fast before the Most High, before she go in front of the king. Continue.
And mourning, and instead of precious ointments, she covered her head with ashes.
Right. Which was the custom of the Jews when we were in that time of mourning. So drop down where she was approaching the king. Babu Kusha. I think that's supposed to be around verse 10. Or a little lower. Yeah. Try verse 12.
Remember, O Lord, make thyself known in the times of our affliction.
Make what?
Make thyself known in the time of our affliction.
So this is the prayer she was praying. You understand? In to the Most High, because she understood that the Most High would deliver the nation of Israel by what? Through prayer. Continue.
And give me boldness, O King of the nations, and Most High of all power.
And the what?
Most High of all power.
Continue. Yeah, I won't continue the prayer so that you get at that whole backdrop, because you know, really understanding what she did is really key to what this sister really did and the mindset that she was in. Continue, Babu Kusha.
Verse 13. Give me eloquent speech.
Give me what?
Eloquent speech
Mm-hmm.
in my mouth before the lion.
Before who?
Before the lion.
Because she know this king, if she come off, she dead. Continue.
Turn his heart to him that fighteth against us, that there may be an end of him and of all that are like-minded to him.
That's right, because she understood it was not just him man alone, but all the other heathens who was against the Jews. Continue.
Verse 14.
Mm-hmm.
But deliver us when thy hand help me, that am desolate, and which have no other help but thee.
Mm-hmm.
Verse 15. Thou knowest all things, O Most High. Thou knowest that I hate the glory of the unrighteous, and abhor the bed of the uncircumcised.
That's right. So even though she was in this kingdom, she hated it. She didn't want to be in that position, but she was there. But she still understood her position where she was and what she was there for. Continue.
And of all the heathen, thou knowest my necessity.
Thou knowest what?
My necessity.
Continue.
For I abhor the sign of my high estate,
That's right. Continue.
which is upon my head in the days wherein I chew myself, and that I abhor it as the menserous rag.
So even though she was queen, she didn't like the position she in. And she was, comparing the position of what she have, or the hatred of the position she have, to what a menstruous rag. So basically, as how we know it today, a menstruous rag now would be what? A pad that a woman would have during she period. Every woman hate that. You understand? So she's saying, this position I have here, I hate it like a stay-free pad. You understand? That was the kind of comparison she had in dealing while she was praying to the Most High, to let the Most High know that, she really sincere in where and what she was doing and the position she was in, that she didn't really like it, but she was there. Continue.
And that I wear it not when I am private by myself.
Right. So she only wearing and performing, doing what she's doing because what? Because she in that position. But when she behind closed doors, and she alone and she people, she said, nah, that ain't not me. Go ahead, Mr. Shah. I know you want to say something.
Yes, like I said, that comes just like some of the business places we work in. When the people then come, it's like, good morning, sir, how are you?
Yeah.
How was your day and thing? And yeah, fine, I was beautiful shortly. And as you get a chance back, your dog.
Yeah.
But you seem to that age. But I really put it was on fine. And then go back to normal song.
That's a perfect example. So you are the customer service. Hi, hello, how are you? You understand? But as soon as you turn your back, you're going back to your old ways. You understand? But because why? It's a show. It's a performance. You don't really want to be there, but because of the job and because of so-called customer service, so now you want to cuss them people left and right. But you want to lose your job. So you put on this fake smile and this fake voice, and you give them the customer service. You understand? So that's basically what she was doing at the time. It's like, hello, welcome to KFC. And you can see she vexed to be there. You understand? And that is the kind of position she was in. You understand? She didn't really want it, but it was that burden on she had to carry at that time. So this was where, or the position she is, and she was praying to the Most High. So this given a context, you know, that wasn't really so up in verse 5 in the book of Esther of when she went and prayed. And, you know, in the next class, we'll be able to dive in more, you know, how she, when she finished the prayer and she stepped to the king, what exactly takes place, right? And with that, I'll pass the class to priest and officer Maikwa. Shema? Yeah. Would I pass the priest and officer Maikwa?
This is the I.S.U.P.K security announcements. We are the I.S.U.P.K out of 1 West, 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under command of GEN.YAHANNA. The rules for brothers and sisters. When a new brother or sister comes into the school, they are off limits for 6 months. They are to be saluted only. They are here to shed themselves of the world. After 6 months, if a brother or a sister has an interest in a particular person, he or she must get permission from the head to speak to a brother or a sister. There's another 6 months in which the brother or sister will court each other. After the 6-month period, the brother or sister will get permission from the head to mark tithes, which is a commandment. You can find this in Numbers chapter 18 and verse 21 and Malachi chapter 3 verses 8 to 10. It means tenth in the Hebrew and pronounced Ma'ashra. 10% of any increase the Lord gives you, you give to the treasury department or teacher. Priest fund. Free will offering for priests, not mandatory. Whatsoever amount you would like to give. The upcoming holy convocation. Right, we are currently in the feast of Purim, which is the 14th day, and the 15th, and will also be the 15th day of the 12th month on the Hebrew calendar, which will be today, Tuesday, February 25th, and also tomorrow, Friday, February 26th, 2021. You can find this in Esther, as we are reading tonight, chapter 9 and verse, chapter 9, verse 20 to 31. Remind. Akim and Aquatim to check on social media such as I.S.U.P.K.com, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and so on for I.S.U.P.K events and materials. If your brother wants to be a trooper in the school, then he's to start wearing all black, which includes black boots, like shirt, like headbands, and scarf. And with that, we say imagine. We're going to begin with the Lord's Prayer in the Hebrew. Abanaw, Sebashimaya, Padas, Hayah, Shabka, Yahweh, Malakaka, Taba'a, Ratazaka, Hayah, Aisha, Baratazan, Kawa, Hayah, Bashimaya, the Thundernaw, Akam, Kal, Yawam, Wasalaknawa, Kawatnawa, Kasalaknaw, Kawatanaw, Wala'a, Tabianawa, one say one, above. Our Shino, Mayon, Rai, Haya, Laka, Amalakwa, Wamaala, Watapara, Iwilamium, Aman.
The Lord's Prayer in English. Our Father,
who art
in heaven,
hallowed be thy name.
Yahweh,
Thy
kingdom come.
Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done in earth
as it is in heaven.
As it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. And forgive us
our debts,
as we forgive our debtors.
Lead us not
into temptation.
Deliver us
from evil.
Thine is the kingdom,
and the power,
and the glory,
forever.
So be it.
So be it. Sir, men of Israel, let's give the teacher a one courtesy salute. I'm Martin Shabbat, Amajim, Barak, Yahweh Hashem Yahushai Rakatah, Yadiat Matah. Sir, men of Israel, let's give the sisters online a one courtesy salute. I'm Martin Shabbat, Amajim, Barak, Yahweh Hashem Yahushai Yadiat Matah. Class dismissed.